Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So they're trying to move President Biden's socialist tax and spend-a-thon through Congress at present. And, Biden for the last several months has been giving you this line, and always sotto voce.
It's fully paid for. Fully paid. It does not increase the deficit one single cent.
That's not what the Congressional Budget Office said yesterday, releasing its official scoring of the tax and spend and entitlement bill. Adds $367 billion to the deficit. Now, this is the most generous scoring that the Biden administration is going to get. And by the way, continues to be reported as $2 trillion. Again, the Penn-Wharton budget model estimated that the House bill would cost nearly $4.6 trillion. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget pegs the number at closer to $4.9 trillion and suggests it would add $1.5 trillion to the deficit over the next 5 years. This is, 5 times the estimate of the Congressional Budget Office. So the numbers are just monstrous and they're varied. The bottom line is this is a unbelievable expansion of federal government completely through taxing production, bad idea, particularly in an inflationary period, and spawning all sorts of new entitlement programs, not to mention a favorite provision of Americans, $80 billion to the IRS. And the GOP spokesman for the Ways and Means Committee noted this: Americans' chances of audit are more than doubles as the IRS targets lower and middle income earners with this $80 billion in additional funding from this legislation. Nearly half of 1.2 million new audits will be on Americans making up to $75,000 a year. 313,000 audits hitting people making up to $25,000 a year.
What?
So the idea it's going after the billionaire tax cheats. No. That is not what that $80 billion to the IRS is for. It's going after middle American families and those that are on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum and trying to climb to the middle and beyond. For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined again by Wall Street Journal columnist and Trumponomics author, as well as economist Steve Moore. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Amy. Well, last night, boy, high theatrics on the House floor of the U.S. House of Representatives in the Capitol, where I think that Kevin McCarthy may still
8 hours. well, I think he just wrapped up his 8-hour speech. He must be exhausted.
8 hours? I went to bed at about 1 o'clock in the morning. He was still talking, but I thought it was a good performance, and you could see the Democrats were kind of wilting under the pressure. This is a really, really bad bill, folks. I don't care if you're conservative, Republican, Democrat, whatever. This is going to bankrupt our country. We just passed a $1.1 trillion bill last week, and then 4 or 5 months earlier than that, we passed the $2 trillion blue state bailout. Now they want $4 trillion for this. I mean, where does it end? And by the way, I was listening to Dan. You did a great explanation of what's going on. But it's this idea, well, it's paid for. I don't care if it's paid for. What does that mean, paid for? They're going to take the money out of our pockets. We're going to raise our taxes through the roof to pay for it. Oh, gee, it's paid for. It doesn't cost anything. But you're right. You're also right about the numbers. These are phony baloney numbers. This thing is, the costs of this are going to be way, way more than they say it's going to be, and they'll probably collect a lot less revenues because it's going to ruin the economy. And you are right, Dan, about the IRS. I mean, does there anybody really thinks that Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett are going to pay more tax under this? I mean, come on. They have more accountants. They have more lobbyists and attorneys and stuff. They're going to find ways around this. They're going after it's not just going to be middle-class workers like us, but it's also going to be a lot of small businesses that are going to be, go under audits all the time. And that's like a proctology exam. It's a lot of fun.
Well, what about like digging into, if we have more than $600 worth of transactions, they can just snoop into our checking and savings accounts?
So they changed that. Okay. Now it's if you have an account in a bank or a credit union of an account with $10,000 or more. But if you do, that means any transaction that you make, you buy Girl Scout cookies with a check, they're going to be investigating this stuff. I mean, it's outrageous. We should have a simple flat tax. That just is really simple. You pay 17% of your income in taxes. You're done with it. You may recall that when I was up for the Federal Reserve Board position, one of the things that they said was disqualifying for me was that I had a tax lien, and the IRS claimed that we owed them $60,000. And when I talked to the press, I said, my accountant thinks that actually they owe us money, but no, Steve Moore's a tax cheat, blah, blah, blah. Well, 3 months after, I withdrew from the nomination, guess what? I get a letter from the IRS saying, whoopsie daisy, you're right. We owe you money.
Oh.
You don't want money. I'm like, where do I get my reputation back? I'm and to this day, the left says, Steve Moore, he's a tax cheat. But this is a horrific bill. It's going to make inflation much worse. And I'm surprised that so many of these Democrats, Dan and Amy, are walking the plank for Nancy Pelosi on this. There are at least 15 Democrats in the House that are in Republican districts where people voted, they didn't like Trump, they didn't like his antics, but they're not hardcore leftists, and they voted for these Democrats. I don't understand the logic of voting for these bills. These guys are going to be ousted by big numbers this time next year if they vote for this bill.
Just one thing. I concede your point on the whole. It pays for itself, and it doesn't add to the deficit. And it's just all sophistry that you get from politicians all the time. But there's so much, anticipation of the CBO score, and it comes out, and even though it's on the low end, still 367 billion, and what's 367 billion between friends when we're 10 trillion over the last 18 months.
Right.
But still, then that will just be how this will play out. That will just be completely ignored, even though it's scored under rules that the Democrats imposed on how the CBO must score legislation. That'll just be ignored, and you'll have Joe Biden in his schoolmarm voice continuing to whisper that it's fully paid for and does nothing to add to the deficit.
Yeah, look, I've been through this many times. The old joke where the accountant goes in, sees the CEO, applying for a job, and the CEO says to the accountant, I just have one question for you. What's 2 + 2? And the accountant, closes the door and whispers in his ear, what do you want it to be? And that's exactly what this is, right? This is basically the CBO. They cook the books, folks. I know this is shocking to people. They cook the books. But here's another one. The bill costs like $800 billion in the first 5 years, but in the second 5 years, that is year 6 through 10, it actually costs far less money. Now, you and I know that's crazy because government spending programs grow over time. They don't shrink. So how did they do that? They said, these programs are going to go away in 4 years. In 4 years, the program's going to go away. Now, Dion and Amy, what are the chances these programs are going to be repealed?
Nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program.
Exactly.
So, Stephen, I wanted to ask you about, the woman that Biden wants to put in charge of America banks, and that's Amarova. And her arrest record, for retail theft isn't sitting well with a lot of people. She stole 4 pairs of shoes, 2 bottles of cologne, 2 belts, and socks from TJ Maxx. And she wasn't young. She was 28 years old at the time this happened in Madison, Wisconsin. And he wants to put her in charge. Obviously, she has no respect for the law or systems of government in the United States.
Well, you're right. This woman is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. This woman is really nuts. And so basically, you're right. She was caught shoplifting. But look, who didn't make mistakes when they were young, right? But she went to Moscow State University.
The least of her crimes.
She is not. Yeah. You know how we make fun of some of these Democrats who are socialists. She's not a socialist. She's an outright communist.
Yeah, right.
And she says that she wants to get rid of banks because we don't really need banks. The government can do the lending. We can just get rid of the banking sector, and we don't need investment people, because the government can just do the investing. Think how much money we'll save. So she wants to put millions of bankers, investment people out of their jobs. And then she wrote that she wants to bankrupt the oil and gas and coal industries. That's about 5 million people in that industry. What a humanitarian she is. And here's the thing. Look, this woman's a nutcase, right? She's just a nutcase. But you have to wonder who in the world would nominate someone like that?
What is he even thinking?
Well, who in the world would employ her in academia? Oh, of course, the Ivy League. I mean, she is a Cornell University
Yeah,
professor.
I mean, they love to talk about, oh, we care so much about working class people. Oh, you're going to put 3, 4, 5 million people in the oil and gas and coal industry out of jobs?
There's no way. There's no way she can get this position, or I'm gonna just get sick.
I mean, I can't wait. I don't know if she's had her hearing yet because there's been so much other stuff going on this week, but I just can't wait to hear.
She was
yesterday.
before the Senate Banking Committee yesterday, and there were a lot of fun exchanges. Tim Scott did
I missed that because
that's all right. Tim Scott did the best job. He just read all of her comments back to her. Didn't ask for no questions because there's nothing you can say in response to the statements she's made. But there was another fun exchange, and this was Senator Bill Hagerty from Tennessee. He asked her just a simple, like, everyday person type of question about gas prices. Take a listen.
Dr. Omarova, do you think that higher gas prices are good for America or bad for America? Yes or no answer would be fine there.
Senator, that's a tricky question because I do remember Hurricane Katrina.
Are higher gas prices good for America or bad for America, Doctor?
It's probably bad for America. It's not my expertise.
Probably.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
Oh my gosh.
She's not sure about that. High gas prices being good or bad for America, Steve.
How is that a complicated question?
See,
I have to get back to you on that one.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of those trick questions those crafty congressmen ask. Yes, right. But I mean, the point of these confirmation hearings, which is why Tim Scott did the best job. I'm not giving you any time to respond because there is no response to this. It's just a silliness where she pretends not to have said and not to believe the things that she believes and has said.
But here, look, there's a bigger point here, which is the left in the Biden administration has declared war on fossil fuels. They don't want Americans to drive cars that have combustible engines. Right. They want to destroy the oil, gas, and coal. They just want to because we have to do that to save the planet, right?
Yeah, Greta wants $10 a gallon gas prices so that people don't drive their cars.
That's exactly my point, Amy. So now gas prices are high. Because of Biden policies, we're producing 2 million fewer barrels of oil a day. Therefore, what happens when you reduce the supply of something? Its price goes up. And so Biden turns around and says, I'm going to sue the oil companies for raising their prices. I mean, it's unbelievable because they want the price to be high, but they realize, oops, this is a public relations problem. So we're going to say that the oil companies are acting like monopolies when all they're doing is responding to. So I would ask that question to Joe Biden. Do you want oil prices to be high or low? Because if you want prices to be low, why don't you start allowing drilling on the federal lands in Alaska? Why are you not building pipelines? I mean, they're so two-faced on this. And in Chicago, by the way, if they continue to declare war on these pipelines that pump the natural gas into your homes, you're going to have supply disruptions this winter when it gets 4 degrees below zero. And, did you see that the administration saying, well, you might have to turn your thermostat down? Doesn't that sound like Jimmy Carter?
Yeah, and grab a sweater.
And turn your oven on.
Yeah, the cardigan sweater, yeah.
And so Steve, before we let you go, give us your latest level of confidence that this $4 trillion monstrosity gets killed in the Senate.
God, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I think we've got a 50-50 chance. I think the more people are learning about this bill, did you see what its popular? Did you see its popularity rating in West Virginia?
Yeah.
73% of America people in West Virginia want this bill killed, and that's a tough vote for Joe Manchin. So yeah, I'll quote my friend Larry Kudlow and your friend Larry Kudlow: "Save the country, kill the bill."
Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, Trumponomics author, economist. Thanks as always, Steve.
Okay, guys, have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone.